part 8 of the Healing Attachment Wound series, and today we're talking about disorganized attachment. I think the biggest caregiver factor to consider with the disorganized attachment is that the parent is a source of fear instead of a source of safety. This generally happens because the parent is abusive. And I think it's important for us to define what abusive looks like, because some people think that spanking or being screamed at is not abusive, and it is. Spanking, unfortunately, has been normalized in our society as a viable source of discipline, no different from screaming. Both of these things severely dysregulate a child's nervous system, and it leaves them in a state of fear. The disorganized attachment is actually a combination of avoidant and anxious. So you'll notice that there are characteristics of the caregiver that are similar from the anxious profile as well as the avoidant. So another very common caregiver factor for the disorganized attachment is that the parent is very inconsistent with how they respond to the child, just as with the anxious attachment. We'll also observe that the caregivers will avoid the child at a time of distress. Another significant caregiver factor is prolonged or frequent separations from the child. And it is most common to observe that caregivers that create disorganized attachments suffer from mental illness or substance abuse. They generally have a more aggressive disposition, which means they can be violent, physically or verbally abusive, which is what I stated at the beginning of the video. These caregivers generally experience a significant amount of their own trauma that they have not been able to work through, so they can be dissociative to protect themselves from experiencing further trauma, which can impact the child because they are not connecting with the child. Of all the insecure attachment styles, the caregivers that cause disorganized attachments in their children are the most misattuned with their children out of all of the insecure attachment styles.